All right.
And there you are. Hey, how
Hey,
are you?
Blair, good to see you.
Good to see you too.
Yeah, I know it's been a while. You mentioned something about last week getting on, or either last week or that about getting on and being profiled. And I never have. All the times I've met you, I've never asked to be profiled. So,
Yeah, exactly. So what do you want to be profiled on?
so business, and being more consistent. I find that being
Yeah,
a problem.
shush. I
So,
already got that part
yeah,
done.
yeah.
Okay, just hobbies.
Hobbies, sports,
Yep.
mainly football. Exercising, working out, and outside activities when I have the time. I also have a dog that I love my dog. I've had him for 10 years, so he's
Cool.
my best friend. Like I said, man's best friend is.
Yeah, exactly.
Good that,
Cool. Yeah. Okay. So business, consistency, um, the background. What's your background? Sorry, were you ever in the military?
No, I was an Army civilian. I just ended that career after 6 years.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Recent, yeah.
So what is an Army civilian?
So I just work. So I'm an employee of the Army. Pretty much, that's
Okay.
all it is. It's hire out positions, and you put it out there for the public to fill those positions they need.
Okay, cool. Interesting. Okay. So, sorry, I'm just processing.
Huh?
Okay. So what would you like to know?
Pretty much what am I, like a mind model or something that I may be missing something that I'm not seeing, is to be more consistent, to keep on the schedule as I said, and work. I look back, I tend to feel like I'm good, I'm motivated, I do work, and then there's times where I get distracted, and I'm doing things that need to get done but aren't important. I tend to do those first, so I flip flop back and forth.
Okay. So, some of this comes down to, like you said, priority setting, but some of it flips into choices, like in making choices.
Mm-hmm.
And the choices that you make frequently are the less challenging choices, the ones you can know that you can get done. And yeah,
Mm-hmm.
they need to be done, but they get done easily. But you also tend to make them a little bit more drawn out than you have to. When I'm working with more advanced people in their mind models, and like this, and they have clutter. Okay, and this mind model would be it's not it's about mental clutter, and I should just if you bear with me for 2 seconds, I'm going to pull up my list, because I've got way too many of them to remember, well over 100.
Wow.
Okay, let's just do that. One of the things that I go, you're going to have to figure out your effective versus ineffectiveness. And you don't always focus on that. Complexity versus clutter. That's the one.
Okay.
And complexity versus clutter. That's an interesting mind model. Complexity, and there's complicated. And you don't actually go after complicated. You go after, you go after complicated when something's complex. So the definition of complex a complex thing versus complicated, which one sounds cleaner to you, complicated or complex?
Complex.
Right. It's cleaner.
Yeah.
And it is, because a complex thing is something that's made up of a whole lot of small steps. It is complex. It may be intricate, but every step of the way is defined. And that's what Agnes was talking about earlier, or I was chatting with Agnes about, is when in her profile, she goes after complicated as well. I didn't remember to say that one, but Agnes, that's for you too. So this one is, you got to uncomplicate it and go after complex, and you got to start breaking it down, and you need to start disciplining yourself so that you get yourself into a routine. It doesn't sound like you've created a routine for yourself in your life that is workable on a consistent basis. Is that accurate?
That is accurate. Yeah.
Okay. So that's going to create a rather major problem. So getting consistency for you is you do way better when you get consistent and you stop making things complicated and you start breaking them down into complex. And one of the things that you've also got to do is get rid of the clutter in your brain, preferably in your life, but more likely in your brain, where you allow yourself to wander and not go back to that thing that you do. How do you stop that? That's one of the things. Yeah. When you notice that there's a few ways that you can do it. One way that actually does work is doing things in chunks. I do this when I really have a hard time meeting a deadline and I'm feeling pressured. I try and slow myself down and relax, because going slow tends to speed things up. So that's actually what I wound up doing, is taking everything back down here tonight on Zoom, shutting down all of my other programs and restarting it again, because I wasn't getting the right look and feel to Zoom in order to start the webinar, because this is Trevor's, he owns the software to this one, and we use it for our company, but it's in his name, so I have to sign in under him. I was doing it over and over and over again, and yet somehow my computer was popping mine up and not letting me switch accounts properly. So instead of getting panicked, I needed to just relax and follow my cheat sheet, all of my steps, and follow it yet again from the start, because I made it work once before. I can make it work again. Just knowing that these systems do not have a mind of their own. They have to be done. So persistently consistent. You are inconsistently persistent.
Yeah.
Okay. So, really doesn't work when you're inconsistently persistent. We've got to be able to flip that stuff around and start making it consistently persistent. And we've got to start working on our clutter, getting rid of our clutter, and moving it back into complexity. Having things that are complex is fine. Clutter is not. And I'm just going to read you a little thing that I brought up here. Clutter, mental and physical mess. Most people get overwhelmed by the amount of clutter they find around themselves. This state is overwhelming. It disempowers them and can keep them in a stuck state. Some people like clutter, but at some point, this strategy becomes inefficient. The complex is made up of many small parts. On its own, each part is understandable and clear. Things that are complicated have not been broken down into understandable, clear parts. That's the key piece to this whole thing. It's not understandable key parts. That's the real breaker for you because it doesn't work that way for you.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you let it stay as clutter and as complicated, not as complex, not as just a complex thing that needs to be broken down. So one of the exercises I have people do is, okay, you've got the tasks to do. What do you need to break down? And then put that sequence together. Okay, Melissa and I, my wife and I, you met Melissa.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So we're doing a reno. We're doing a bathroom reno. And actually both bathrooms in our house upstairs.
That seems like a lot of work.
Yeah, but
one
it's
time.
not that bad when you break it down.
Yeah.
Like we had this small shower for the size of our house. The master bath had a very small shower. It was crowded for 2 people, so it was almost never used with multiple people. So that was out the window. And we both wanted to have a good shower in there and a place with a shower with a seat and to build it out. And so I'm fairly handy. I can build things, nice things. And, you know, the point being is that we need to get on the same page so that we align ourselves. And one of the things that we do is we build this thing that builders call punch lists. When I have a project, even with Trevor, my partner on this, we build punch lists and we order them in terms of when does one thing have to be done before the next. And it's like the same thing for bathroom renovation. You got to do it in an order. And one of the things that has been really handy about EMP is they give you the flow, they give you the process of what to do when, and when you stick to that process, it becomes very simple and very clear. And, you know, you're going to be increasing your probability of success by doing that.
Yeah. Man, seems pretty right on. You seem pretty right on. That was like, especially in the right off the bat, that was pretty right on. Like the getting caught with some other activities and losing track of time and spend too much time doing other things than what is important.
And you're not holding, like you're going after things that are unimportant and holding them as, yeah, they need to be done, but do they need to be done now in this order?
Right. Correct.
And it's because your mind is cluttered. You're not clearing it out. You need to write these things down. Clutter creates a barrier to grow within an organization. You're growing this organization. I wrote this for businesses, but this works for the person too. It's in your own mind. It creates a barrier for growth of yourself. This process focuses on the ability to determine which task is the most effective to get you to your desired result, rather than just doing a lot of tasks and throwing mud up the wall, hoping that that will get you to your desired result. And you don't figure out how to optimize your time. You know, so you don't wind up eventually figuring out, how can I inexpensively hire people to do things that are appropriately done now so I can get on and do the things that A, I enjoy, and B, need to be done next. So you got to be able to balance those things out and create those breakthroughs, and you'll stop the overwhelm. Because part of your language was indicating that you flip-flop in and out of stuck and overwhelmed states. And then that creates the frustration. Yeah. And it's caused by you not having a clear mind. It's cluttered.
Yeah, that's same with the complex and
complicated.
Complicated. You know, you say that, and it was like, okay, well, things seem complicated. I tend to push them off to the side and to do them later. But if they're complex, I'm like, okay, we'll just figure this out. You know, go right from the next step to the next. But if it's complicated, I'm like, man, that seems crazy. I'm gonna sit here and spend the time and do all this time. Well, there's others. You know, I'll do something else. You know, I'll get to that point.
Okay. Remember last week, naming and labeling.
Yeah.
right?
Yes.
Okay, right there. You just named and labeled something in as complex. You're willing to dive into it. Complicated, push it off.
Yeah.
So what happens if you take that thing that you called complicated and renamed it as complex and then chunked it down into the appropriate sized bits? Like,
So you have
think
to do
about
that.
that as being, a path, your clearer path to being more successful on a more consistent, predictable basis. Okay?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, you said you like to build things, and I like to too. It's something I enjoy, with my dad, or build like wood projects, and it's they're complex. Like you start with nothing and just play blank slate, and like, okay, let's put something together and just come up with something, and it's going to come out, and you go through that process, and it's enjoyable, and it doesn't seem difficult at all.
And you've got a good brain for problem solving. That's the other thing, is like, you like challenges and you don't like things that are left undone. So you like finishing, but yet you push things off to the side and they create messes for you.
Yeah. And then they take longer to get done. And then
Absolutely.
just over time, they build up on top of one another.
Yeah. So again, these are the key things that I would really suggest that you flip that switch in your brain and you figure out how to do it differently.
Okay.
Okay. Makes sense?
Yep. Thank you. Appreciate it.
No problem. How did that work for you?
That was great. That was awesome. I like that.
Okay, cool. 1 to 10, how effective was that?
That was a 10 for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Great. No problem.
Yeah.